I soaked 8 pounds of dried pinto beans last night. All of that won't fit in even my biggest pot, so I'm cooking them in 2 batches. Like many people, I leave my Saturdays for things like bulk cooking, since the weekdays are spent getting school done and putting food on the table. So here's batch number 2 finishing soaking, and I also soaked about 2 pounds of azuki beans, and then batch 1 is in the pot heating up. I also took out 2.5 gallons of frozen tomatoes last night to thaw. This morning I put them on 2 baking trays with all the herbs and spices and put them in the oven for 2 hours to roast. If you watched my last video on making marinara sauce, you saw how incredibly easy it is. However, I wanted to make it even easier, so this time I didn't cut the tomatoes. I put them whole on the baking pan. I had no idea if it would work out, but I wanted to try. And then I'm also milling and freezing soft white wheat today so that we have it on hand when making things like muffins, tortillas, biscuits, pancakes. And I'm washing clothes. My washer and dryer are in the basement, so if I don't keep a timer going, I will completely forget them. So here's batch number 1, cooked, drained, rinsed, drained again, cooled, scooped into 2 cups. I have 2 cups in each little sandwich baggie, and then those are nestled into a gallon freezer bag. Batch 1 yielded 20 pounds of cooked pinto beans. So now on to batch 2. First, I drain and rinse the soaked beans. Then I put them in a pot, add fresh water. I'm sure how you know how to cook beans. If not, I'll put it in the description below. You can check it out. As those were cooking, my tomatoes finished up and came out of the oven. So it turns out cooking the tomatoes whole means they don't cook off as much tomato juice as when I cut them in half. That's the only difference I found. When I cut them in half, it almost made the sauce too thick. And when I cooked it, when I cooked with it in recipes, I always had to add water. So this way, the sauce is less thick, but it's just as flavorful. And because it is significantly simpler to just throw the tomatoes on the tray instead of having to cut them, I think I'll stick with this new, even lower maintenance way of making marinara sauce from now on. So again, once the tomatoes have roasted for 2 hours at 300 degrees, I scoop them 1 tray at a time into the Vitamix. I add a bit of the juicy goodness left in the pan, since there are still herbs and spices in there. Then I just blend it until it's smooth. Just making sure that the skins and the seeds are all blended up. And then I pour them into pint and quart jars to cool and then to freeze. About 2.5 1-gallon bags of frozen tomatoes yielded about 9 pints of marinara sauce, and cleanup is a breeze. So the pinto beans are done. 8 pounds of dried pinto beans yielded 32 pounds of cooked beans. Each little baggie has about 15 ounces of cooked pinto beans in them. So when a recipe calls for a can of beans, all I have to do is take out a baggie of beans, let them defrost, dump them in. No need to rinse and drain as you would a can of beans because that step's already happened. I understand it would be better if I froze these in jars, but as I use my jars for marinara sauce and stock and jam, I just don't have enough left over to put the beans in. Not saying that won't change one day, but this is what I do for right now. And yes, this is a lot to do, and I'm about dead by the end of the day. However, now I'm set for more meals than I can even count between the flour milled and the beans cooked and the marinara sauce canned. I've never found any freezer meals that are vegan friendly, so I don't bulk cook whole meals. However, I do bulk cook and freeze stock, beans, marinara sauce, bread, and vegetables to make weeknight cooking faster and cheaper. For this reason, my freezers are full and my fridge never is. I know that seems odd for a family of 8, but that's just how it is at our house. Do you do any bulk cooking? Any recommendations for me to add to my list? Any vegan bulk cooking ideas you'd like to share? Leave a comment, let me know what I need to try next.